Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 297, I have the immense pleasure to have here Karma. Now,
There.
what can I say? Yes, Karma is like
Right.
author, yes, wife turned sex slave. You might go,
Of
yeah.
another man.
Yes, and not to her husband. Hello, Karma. How are you today?
Well, I'm a wife turned sex slave. I'm pretty good.
Now, Karma, now I have to ask, with regards to yeah, wife turned sex slave.
Consensual sex slave.
Well,
Let's clarify.
consensual. Okay, yes. Sorry, excuse me. I forgot to put that in. Consensual. Can you explain or tell us how this came to be? How did you get on this path?
Oh, first. That's a very long story.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you in very short. It's a title of, it's a subject of my book. This
Uh-huh.
is my book. Shameless plugging right here.
Okay, yes.
All right. It's called Surviving Master Joshua, the BDSM Memoir of an Unfaithful Wife. And it tells the story about how this unusual reality came to be. And I'll do it pretty quickly. So I was a reporter for a conservative news outlet, a local conservative news outlet, and I was researching a story. Started out with religious figures in the kink scene, in New York's kink scene, and morphed as I went along investigating the story into the impact that the Me Too movement had on the kink scene in New York. Because as it turned out to be, it had impact on a lot of people's lives in that area.
Mm.
My main source, my main interviewee was a person called Master Joshua, who in the kink scene, he was called Master Joshua. He has a normal name too. um, and he introduced me to the scene as a reporter. As in, I was going to write about it, and he said, well, before you write a story about BDSM and the kink scene and all the people who live this life,
Mm.
have you know anything about it? And I said, well, I read 50 Shades. And he said, okay, then let's get you a little bit more informed and introduce you to the real life situation. So he invited me to attend a kink party or a BDSM party that started out as a roundtable in which people would speak about their connection to kink in their everyday life. And afterwards, I would watch the party. Um, so I got to know these people. I met the people. I interviewed them. We spoke. They told me about their lives a little bit. It was like a brief interview. I got about their jobs, how things connect. I got like, okay, I understand you a little bit. I know, I get where you're coming from. And then it was time for the party. So lights off, music on. All the CEOs and company managers and parents and teachers left the room, came back in leather and latex on all four and leashes and masks and whips, like eyes wide shut. I don't know which movie to give you that will give you that demonstration. Like I was like, oh shit, this is real. What you see in MTV videos, that's real. But real people do this. This isn't for movie stars or fictional billionaires or werewolves. This is a real people thing. And when I watched these real people play, as in interact with each other in the realm of BDSM, I was kind of stunned because it was the most viscerally real and maybe honest exchange I ever had this chance to see in between people. Like it was all the superficial stuff, all the I work for this company and here's my Instagram followers and here are the projects I'm interested. All that stuff where people put between each other to get to know each other, all that was gone. And it went straight to how do you want to feel? And what can I do that would make you feel that way? And that spoke to me like powerfully. I was like, where have I been all my life? Like where I went in. These are my people. What
Mm.
I see in front of me is speaks to me. I know I want this. I want in. Now, problem, I'm married, have kids. You can't just start like a, you don't just pick that up in the middle of your marriage with kids, with little kids involved. And so began a journey of like, I told my husband, my husband knew, of course, that I went to this party because it was part of my work.
Yeah.
I told him that I was kind of mesmerized by this world and I wanted in. But the person who most mesmerized me and that caught my eye from the very beginning and never left my sight was Master Joshua. Now, watching everybody play, I knew I wanted into BDSM. Watching him play, and by play, I mean, put his hands on people. But watching him play, I understood, I knew that I wanted in with him. And I never thought, like that first night when we met at the party and I watched him play, afterwards we met in the hallway when I was leaving and he was like, so how was it for you? And I was like, wow, that was very interesting. And the whole time I'm like staring him down. Like I'm staring at him like I'm eating him with my eyes. Like I'm memorizing him because I thought that's probably as close as I can get to this man and his entire world.
Mm.
So just look at him right now because I won't have another chance. But I did. And he was quite aware of my attraction to both the world and to him. And it wasn't one-sided, that attraction. And so began a sort of journey of like my husband, when I spoke to it with my husband, he was like, woman, we got preschool applications to fill out. We got a new house. We got debts. We got work to do. We got life to live. Leave me alone with this shit right now. I'm not interested. This is not, it doesn't, I'm not into this. And we
Mm.
have important things to do. That's what I'm getting from my husband. And at the same time, there's this sexy stranger pulling aside the curtains saying, hey, let me show you the ropes. I know everything about what you want to know. Let me show you.
Mm.
So
I
that's how it started.
Wow. I see. Wow. That's quite. Oh. Now, as much as I like to go, okay, wow. Like the thing, what comes to mind goes, that's a bit crazy from that sort of going from that to like this world. Can you kind of describe what was missing from your current, like I'm a wife with like two kids, preschool applications, as you were saying, paying a mortgage, holding down a job as a reporter, to like this new world of kinks and how can I put it? Yeah, just this new world of kinks. You like came into what was
I
missing?
would call it like sexually alternative or sexually liberated or just sexually just and sexually alternative is one way to put it, right? I
Okay.
mean, I wouldn't say my life as wife and mother was largely set out by default, as in this is kind of like the world we live in, and this is all I knew, and there were no other options, right? There wasn't. You don't approach a marriage like with a sheet of like, okay, so we want to somehow, we want to regulate our relationship. We want to make some kind of commitment to each other. So we can have poly, we can have open, we could have solo poly, we could have um, all the kinds of non-monogamy that exist. There's like 7 of them. They don't come to mind right now. Or we could have a monogamy, or you don't sit like that and talk about it, right? You just assume monogamy because that's what the world does. And that's what exists in plain view.
Mhm.
And had we had that conversation in the beginning, I would probably have said, you know what? Yeah, monogamy, but let's at least see what's out there. I was not even aware that there's so much out there. I was not aware that I have a choice in a way. And that, so when I did discover it, I felt a little bit, I don't know how to put it. I felt a little bit like I missed a huge opportunity that I did not know existed, because I knew from the moment I walked in that this is something I wanted. From the moment I started watching, I was, let's say I didn't know I wanted this, but I was so compelled, so mesmerized. It spoke to me. And to have something that speaks to you like that be somehow forbidden is upsetting, right? I mean, if you go out and you watch a person skydive and you say, one day I want to do that, then you just go and do it, right? You don't have to go like, I can't do that because it's not allowed or something like that.
Mm.
But for me and for most people, it is not allowed. It is off limits somehow. Now, speaking 5 years in, as somebody who tried out multiple roles and multiple positions, I know that it's just as any position, you know, just as I could be a mom or a teacher or a journalist or a wife I could be a sex slave if I chose. There's just a path that you need to walk through to get to the point where everybody agrees and understands what is at stake and agrees that about the conditions of how this might be allowed to take place. But in the beginning, it was just like this big, I want something, I don't even know what I want. I just know I want, it speaks to me loudly, and I can't have it because I am married. So that was the conflict I was dealing with at the time.
Right. Would you say with like all the way, like your married life, your life before, like found your like master in Master Joshua and this new world, would you say you honestly didn't know who you truly were, and this offered you that sort of, well, even though you like were a consenting sex slave, and with the word slave, like, yeah, restriction, bondage, everything like that, like lack of freedom and free will to do anything, did you
It's not
find
the same as that.
liberation?
Let's break that down to 2 points, okay?
Mm.
BDSM is composed of various roles that you play toward each other, and it has a slightly different meaning than in everyday life,
Oh.
right? Sex slave does not imply lack of choice. It implies you giving certain powers to somebody, but the powers are checked, as in there's agreements to what is okay and on board and what isn't. So saying sex slave is more like it's more like a hot juicy title and a set of agreements that comes with it, but it does not mean I would if and when it comes to a point where the other person is unhappy, then the relationship breaks up. It's not a slavery, it's not as such. I know it's a strong term to use, but it's one that I use for podcasters because they love it.
All right. So basically, you're playing like, rather like, if we take out this like slave title, you're a sexual submissive with, would I be right in saying that?
At the time, well, first of all, I'm not anymore, because it did come to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? This is too, with Joshua, with
Mhm.
my, I call him Master Joshua out of respect, but I don't call him master on an everyday basis anymore.
Right.
I don't even know what he is right now. It's a TBD. It's a it's a to be determined power exchange. It is a power exchange,
Right.
right? By power exchange, are you familiar with the term power exchange? Let me introduce. Um,
I
Power
might.
exchange in the concept of in the construct of BDSM, it means one party plays the role of a dominant or a person who leads, as if he is the leader of the situation. And one person plays the part of the person being led. Now, that does not mean that one person is lesser to another, or that one person is not as important as the other. And when it does, if it does seep into that, the relationship will come apart eventually, because nobody wants to be in that situation.
Mm.
It is a consensual situation, and so nobody would consent to that for too long. However, there is a party that is the leader and a party that is the led, and I filled that role for a long time. And when it came to be a little too much for me to be led in that way, then I said, I don't want to be a slave anymore. I can't be a slave anymore, because I don't. As a slave, my role was to, I wrote my own vows as a slave. And as a slave, my role was to obey, please, obey and please my master. As in, my main prerogative in the relationship is to make him happy. And I wrote that for me, for myself, to clarify what it would mean for me to be a slave. And when I found out that I can't in goodwill say that, because I was getting like, nah, like no, I do not want to do that anymore. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like my main prerogative at this point of my life is pleasing myself and meeting my standards rather than yours. That not every time, every situation is resolved by you being pleased. Sometimes you're pleased and I'm not, and I don't want to live with that. As long as, as long as I am in a situation where pleasing my master pleases me, and it's what makes me feel fulfilled to fulfill his wishes, we're good. When there started to be a little bit of discrepancy about that, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore in good faith.
Mm.
And while it almost broke us up, we found a way to renegotiate the terms of our relationship, just like in the end, I found a way to renegotiate the terms of my marriage. So that's to the point of slavery. And what was the first part of the question?
I I was saying about liberation. Like, did you find a newfound realm of liberation? Because it sounds like you went from, even like, you were married, 2 kids, everything like that, which nuclear family, 2.1 kids, like house, mortgage,
Yep.
all of the whole 9 yards. But then to like, oh, I've discovered this world, or like, yeah, which is, or a world of kinks, like sexual liberation, and like, I mean, other people would say, like, they'll throw out a whole host of different things, but it's not what I would call a societal norm, if you yeah.
High five.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely a liberation to a point of rebirth, I would say, because it was a going through this path, right? I started out wanting something. I
Yes.
ended up pursuing it without permission, cheating, lying, following, well, cheating, lying came slowly in. I mean, in the beginning, it was sort of like, I asked my husband permission and he didn't want to come with me. And I said, okay, can I explore on my own and bring it back home? And very reluctantly, he eventually agreed to that. But, he didn't know about Joshua. And I didn't think Joshua was a big deal at that point either, but he became a big deal. So every point of the way, it was a little bit of a slip until it was a big slip. You know what I mean? Sort of like slippery slope situation.
Okay.
It was sort of like, well, we didn't do anything but talk. Well, we didn't do anything but talk and a little bit of a rope demonstration. Well, we didn't do anything but talk and a rope demonstration and a little bit of more demonstrations. Well, we didn't do it. Well, might as well call it an affair at this point and go for it.
Ah,
So that's in a nutshell. It's a 300-page book, but that was kind of like in a nutshell how it happened. However, we were talking about liberation, right?
yeah.
Going from this point of being kind of like a liar and a cheater, and somebody who's living fearfully and living a lie and not sure how to get out of it,
Mm.
to somebody who speaks the truth. Like my husband knows. I speak the truth now. I don't fuck it. I'm not gonna change who I am and what I'm doing for anybody anymore. I went through hell to get here. Do you know what it is to stand up to your spouse who you are financially indebted to, who the foundation of my life, really, my husband, my kids, my family, everything is on the line, and say like, all right, I did something. I did this. I cheated on you. I lied. Here's the truth. I'm going to tell you everything. But you know what? This is who I am. I can't take that back. I regret everything about how it happened and what I did and how it came to be. But this is who I am. I don't want to keep that a secret anymore. I was extremely lucky, and I had I couldn't have done it on my own. My master Joshua guided me through this, and I am very lucky that my husband is a really, really, really good guy.
Mm.
And after the initial hurt and betrayal, and talking about divorce or the option of divorce, he was like, you know what? I always said that marriage doesn't need to be a cage. So I'll live up to it now.
Mm. That,
So that transformed me 100%. I became a much freer, braver, and just I live in my own skin now. It never felt like I live in my own skin.
I could only imagine, like, okay, today as we have this conversation, you're wearing like a hood and a mask.
True
Okay.
that.
Mm.
Yes.
Now, would you say like you had like you were wearing a mask when it was the picket fence and all like the 2.4 kids and everything like that at that point, and then you took off that mask, but you still had a mask on while okay, let's just say you're playing away from home, whatever. Like now maskless and being absolutely truthful to all members of your family and yes, significant others, whoever that might be. I don't know how many, but yeah. Would you say you've like this has been like the first time you've been able to relax and breathe for a long time?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm still wearing a mask, right? That kind of speaks for itself. I mean, I'm still covering my identity, but that's more because that is a process that I am working on with the world, not myself, not my closer people, but
Mm-hmm.
the world needs to change and I need to change it. And I am working on it, but until it does change, having this, right? Having this thing associated with my name will harm my family,
Mm.
right? The world will judge us. Everybody outside my family will judge us. My husband's job will be affected, mostly. His friends would judge us. I mean, my husband has allowed me a lot of freedom, but it's not like he speaks about it to other people. He's not proud of it. He didn't come to terms with it. Like he's not. I am proud of the road I went, and I believe that if I was fully understood, other people's would have been people like my husband would be prouder of themselves
Mm.
too. But right now, it's something he accepts, not something he embraces. And I feel like the world needs to come a ways to accept this because, in my eyes, from where I stand right now, after 5 years of this, right? BDSM is a sexual identity, just like transgender or gay or queer is. Kinky is a sexual identity. It's who I am. it's part of my initial makeup, and a lot of other people in this world feel exactly the same. However, we don't have that kind of protection that the LGBTQA plus movement has. We are not considered, I mean, taking this group and putting putting it in the plus area gives maybe us some wiggle room. But if you try to advertise a book like this on Amazon and you get like, nah, we can't talk about BDSM. We can't publish BDSM. Transgender, yeah, sure. Like that's an identity. But kinky, no, that's a perversion, right? So my goal right now is to move that or reshape that, because it's all about branding.
Mm. Well, it is all about branding, but like this is the thing, when you talk about kinks and fetishes, it covers a very wide gambit.
Yeah.
And like this is the thing, like someone who might go through maybe some light spanking and everything like that to like something, let's just say a tad bit more colorful and on the more extreme side, well,
That
heck,
would be me, right?
yeah, well, well, then you say that, but you never know. You might not be that high on the spectrum, yeah, yeah, of things. But like the whole thing is because it covers such a wide area. Like there is some things which society will be more sort of like accepting to in comparison to some other things where like society will not be accepting to that at all because there is some like don't get me wrong, there are some kinks which you like go, yeah, maybe you've gone too far. Yeah, maybe it should not be classed as you can't. I wouldn't say that's a kink. That's more no.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, I understand what you're saying in broad terms, and I think that yeah, everybody, it's a question of honing. That's a question of honing, and this is happening on several fronts, right?
Mm,
Right? If you want to equalize, you have to do it on several fronts. So first, it's kind of like an us versus the world situation, right? People who identify as kinky but find the world, or as practitioners of BDSM, or it's called leather right now. It should not be called really leather, because that's a different culture from a different age, related to different people, that in which women didn't even play a part.
mm.
um that one where we're talking about all the people on the bikes. You know what I mean, right? Do you?
It's like, look, we had
Historically, the people who began this BDSM movement most and are most known for it are a group of men
right.
from the 1940s to the 1980s that started something called the leather culture.
Yeah, over in the UK, we had a TV show called Eurotrash. Basically, it was something that was shown late night on a Friday, and it would show, how can I say, more of the colorful aspects of people across the Europe, like the continent of Europe and what they got up to. And yes, from like as you mentioned, bikes to horseplay, and other things. It's like
Bikes to horseplay. Nice segment. Nice. I
right.
like that transition. You work that nice.
Yeah, it did sort of like, and this was back in the, I'm gonna say the 90s, mid to late 90s. This was out and like broadcasted. And so,
Right. So we don't even have, there is no agreed as a community, right? This, I'm speaking as a representative of a community.
yeah,
As a community, there is no community except on the level of outcast by others, as in when a community is defined by not being accepted by others for certain traits, that's not a good stage for the community to be in. But that's the stage that the kink community is in right now, at least as far as I know it from my seat in New York. Like you said, um for some people, certain kinks are okay and certain kinks are not okay. So you got a group of people that accepts a group of people but doesn't accept another group of people. And then one people say, I'm kinky because I like spanking, but I don't agree with all these ideas of the furries, as in the people who dress up and act like different kinds of animals. And the furries says, oh no, we're the kink community, but we don't agree with the people who like playing with body fluids. And the people who play with body fluids say, we're the kink community and we don't like, et cetera, right? And the old leather guard, the people who invented this said, I don't know what all you people are talking about. We rode bikes and wore leather jackets and had a semi-military society, and you all aren't the real thing. So you got a very diverse group of people who have problems to organize as a community because they don't function as one.
Well, like this is the thing, what you're describing with all of the different aspects right there. It's not a community, in my opinion. It's more secret societies. You're a part of this like particular society. Yes, furry
Right.
society. Yeah, like fluids. Like yeah, like BDM. It's not what I would say is what a community whatsoever. And even though you are like you go, yes, you're part of that society, and you go, no, it's my community. But to the rest of the world, it's just like, yeah, you're fractured small groups,
Right.
right,
But
which operate. Like,
LGBTQ, right? Uh, Tremendous, impactful, one of the biggest movements in history is that. That's how it started. That's how it's I mean, you had gay people and you have lesbian, and the lesbians were female and the gay people were men, and they did not. And looking at history, at the history of LGBTQ, the factions did not get along. But once they started saying like, okay, we all have a common goal
mm,
and we are all expelled from society because we are different in some way, right? Once they started looking at their common grounds instead of what separates them,
yeah,
then they started organizing and becoming a, well, yes, it's an LGBTQ community because it supports each other. And I would say, looking from within the kink community, it is very much a community. It has events, they have panels, they have discussions, they have outings, they have uh, it's a society in its pretty early stages. Maybe it's a community in forming,
mm,
but as the LGBTQ movement moves on, this also comes up. I mean, this movement is forming. I could see it because I see how it was 5 years ago and how it is now, and there's a difference.
no, like this is the thing, and like I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here because like this is the thing with regards to the like yeah LGBT community, that might be an easier sell than the kink community because of it's such a broad spectrum of different things it covers. It's like yes, like yeah, man, lady, like you know what I mean, person who likes the whole like buffet, like, but it's like with regards to the sort of like side of kink, and like I'm talking as a learning person, just as an outside observer, trying to sell that because there'll be people who will buy into one segment of it, but they'll be like, no, that's too far. It's just a very tricky sell to get that to, I would say, to the broadest like sense of society, you know?
Right. Well, I am not their spokesman. I'm not the spokesman of everybody. All I know is I'm one person who's going through a certain journey and
Mm,
encountering certain limitations that where a different group would be called bigotry, um, or social bigotry. I wouldn't, bigotry may be a hard word for it right now because as a person who identifies as
mm,
kinky, right? I have to endure a lot of like, no, you cannot say that and stay among normal people. And that is a situation that I would love to ramify. Now, between that and organizing as a community, there's a big difference. But what I can do is say, like, we exist and we are people, and we want to be acknowledged within our journeys as just as okay, as we can talk about it, as we're not barred from certain social situation because it's kinky. Because I mean, I'll give you the concrete examples. My book, right? Surviving Master Joshua, the BDSM Memoir of an Unfaithful Wife. It won a big literary award recently. It's called the Independent Press Awards. And it won this important literary award. And I wanted to send out a press release about it, right? But I couldn't because it had the words BDSM in it. And the press release engine would not could not approve a press release with the words BDSM in it. So I checked in with them and I said, would it be different if it was the word transgender? And they said, of course, transgender is a legitimate sexual identity, where BDSM is not. So that's where I stand about it. That's where I'm like, why isn't it? Why isn't it legitimate? Why can somebody else who wants to dress in opposite gender clothes or express themselves in any way can be called, queer or transgender or anything of that sort? There are language barriers here that I might make mistakes in terms, and if I do, I apologize. But my point is, why should other minority groups be able to speak as the minority group they occupy, and I am not able to speak? I cannot use the term BDSM. I'm just removed from the list if I do. I cannot use the word kinky without being erased from YouTube. I can't speak, That's what I'm talking about.
No, I hear you. And like, this is the thing. And when it comes to the sort of LGBT groups, well, communities, they really fought hard, long and hard. And like, basically, there was, I think in the 60s and 70s, there were like, basically, yeah, many, many gay people, lesbians were like hiding in plain sight, just doing their thing. But like, in order to sort of like, okay, go right, this is what's going on. And like, yeah, there are maybe more like gay people and like lesbians that, like, what I mean, bisexual people out there than you actually know. They did sort of calling up their family members, telling them. And like, this is in a time where imprisonment, it was a real thing. And you know what I mean? It's not like, yes, all we're
Yeah,
gonna
they're not parallel. These struggles are definitely not parallel. And I know I occupy just a teeny little speck on the map, and that teeny little speck is not suffering from some kind of persecution. It's just, but I'm like, this is my world that I live in, and I would love to make it a little bit bigger for me and for the other people I'm with. So I'm talking about it with you. Like, that's
no,
what I can do from where I stand, and just like talk about it and write a book and hope the book shows people that this is normal people. Or forget the word normal. The word normal might not be the best one, but these are real everyday people who have real everyday lives and are not somebody who should be outcasted for it.
no, and you know what? I appreciate you're here today, and like, I'm enjoying this conversation we're having, like, because like, this is the thing. Yes, like, you're coming across, you're good people from all I know. Like, you know what I mean? You've got your like husband, your two kids, like, and yeah, Josh. Joshua, to be determined which sort of where it is. Formerly Master Joshua for you, maybe yes, yeah, maybe subservient Joshua right
I
now.
call him Sir because
Uh,
it's still an incredibly, as in I call him Sir because it's the respect has been earned.
okay,
The respect on my end has been earned. Let me clarify, the man saved my life.
okay. How did
Had
he
he
save your
not,
life?
well, we started out as an affair, right? Well, we started out as a mentor-mentee situation
Mhm.
where I was curious and he was showing me. But my involvement became personal right off the bat. It was personal. And his involvement became personal when he realized I was not out to get him as a reporter, but but I was actually honestly interested in him. He thought I was like from the beginning, like, I'm mesmerized by you. And he was like, right, put down that notebook and we'll talk. Because we were talking, he had, he had a Me Too complaint about him, and I was a reporter investigating the Me Too movement in the kink world. And he came from a atmosphere in which nobody would actually listen to people who are accused of a Me Too violation, as in he was accused of abuse, and once he would by a former partner. Uh, and she posted her accusations on FetLife, which is like the Facebook for kinky people, and on Facebook and on other, social media channels. And once the ball began to roll and rumors began to spread, all that happened to this guy was that he was dropped by everybody. Everybody was just like, okay, we're done. We don't want to know you anymore. Like, kind of like, okay, um, talk to the hand.
Mhm.
Uh, which that was what he was going through. And as a reporter, I was like, having accusation against him did color in my eyes who he was. The accusation surfaced shortly after, once I began investigating him and, just doing some background checkups for the story that came up. Right. And then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. There's some dirt on you here. And he was like, yes. And he was afraid that at that point that'll be the end of it. I would just run with the dirt like everybody else does or did at that point. And what happened was I had to do better research as a reporter, right? And I started asking him questions and other people questions and digging into it. And I what I found was sort of like, okay, I cannot substantiate this, and so I will not judge you as such.
Okay.
Uh, which was not the mood at the time. The mood at the time was sort of like, somebody said this, so you're guilty just because somebody said it. Somebody said this, so you got to disappear
Mm.
because there's this cloud over your head. That's how I ended up with the name Karma, by the way.
Mm.
Uh, when I wrote when I was writing the story about him, and he finally he said, I need you to, my partner, he was with a partner at the time. He's polyamorous. So he said, my partner and myself, we've been through hell with this, and I don't know if I could go through another public exposure. I need you to put this story down for now. And I was like, okay, you know what? You opened the door for me and you let me see your world, and I won't return the favor by putting a knife in your back. But why would you invite a reporter into your business and home when you got this cloud hanging over your head publicly, like in very public view? And he was like, I trust karma to protect me. And I was like, it's not karma protecting you, it's me. And so that's how I ended up with the name Karma.
Okay. I see. I see. So
Do you remember the question? Because I forgot it.
I was like basically like, uh,
Busted.
like basically, how did this like save your life?
Saved my life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as the situation evolved, um, and our relationship turned from mentee mentor to courtship in a way to a full-blown affair in which I was cheating and lying, and it stayed at that phase for a little bit, for some time, for a few months, and those months were like terrible for me. They were really hard. They were, I mean, forget hard. It's hard is does no justice to all the people who are injured by the situation, but they were like revolting in a way. It felt like being sick, because
Mm.
it felt like every day, living that kind of lie, it feels like every day you wake up and you mix some bleach in your coffee and you drink it. And every day you add a little bit more bleach to that mixture. And you just go from day to day feeling sicker and sicker and sicker. And it's, yes, self-harm started to surface, like kind of like a mental breakdown started to happen slowly, kind of like, because I wouldn't say I wanted to kill myself because I had kids and I would not do that to my kids, but I wanted to take myself out of the game. I wanted to maybe try to kill myself and end up in a padded room somewhere and then not have to be in that situation or be accountable of that situation, or have to, or maybe people will just say, oh, she's just crazy, so you don't judge her for it.
Mm.
That started happening. And at the time, Joshua and I were play partners, which means sort of like we are engaging physically, but he's poly, he has lots of partners, and there was no acknowledgement or promise for commitment in there. As in, I was living with the assumption that he's got a lot of girls and I'm just another one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that if anything happened between myself and my husband, it's my problem. I won't get much help. That was kind of like where I was in my head. Um, but when I came to him and said, look, I need help, man. I'm at my very ends we how do you say it? Wits end. Yeah. So I need help. And he said, okay. And he thought about it for a bit and he said, okay, I know what needs to happen. You want me, right? And I was like, right. And I was like, you can have me. I'll be your master. I'll take responsibility for my actions and yours. I'll help you get out of this. I will lead you. See this collar? This collar is yours. But you have to tell your husband the truth about us, all of it. And I was like, I'm scared. I can't, yada, yada. And he was like, no, no, I'm going to be your master. I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to walk you to the point that you can do it, but you have to obey my every command. It was more like a soldier commander situation than a
Mm.
sexual dominant submissive thing.
I have to ask this question. Like, would you say like the sort of all of the effects of okay, self-harm, like yeah, wanting to like possibly like yeah, shift from this mortal coil, all those thoughts and everything like that was stemming from you having to fit these two different identities into your one self, possibly three different identities. Would you say that would be the case?
Absolutely. I mean, they were conflicting.
Mm.
I mean, the whole idea of a good life is getting all your identities and all your roles into a place where they don't conflict, right? That's about it. You're like, you want to be a good everything. I wanted to be a good wife, a good mother, a good person, a good submissive, and a good, so getting it, basically that's the key to any sort of harmony in life, just getting all your roles to move together in one direction. He helped in the beginning by saying, everything was I was crazily in love, right? With him, with Master Joshua.
Okay.
And out of respect, I'll always refer to him as Master in public. So I was very deeply in love, and everything revolved around him, and I could not focus on much that had nothing to do with him. I mean, so he did me a huge service by saying, your well-being and family coherence and harmony in your life is what I want. You want to please me. That's all you can think about right now, right? Please me by fixing your life, basically. And I'll help you. I'll show you how. I'll walk you through the hard parts. But that's so we got two parts that weren't in harmony before, that were conflicting, that were pulling against each other, being a good wife and mother and being with Joshua. They pulled in different directions. I couldn't settle them. It was every day all my energy went out on feeding this conflict. He put these two things together for me, right? He said, being with me and making me happy is the same as taking care of your family and making your husband happy. So by putting them together, he opened that path for me to start like saying, okay, now that I don't have to divide myself in that way, I'm one person. I'm not three people, like you said. I'm one person. I'm a mother, a wife, and a submissive at that point. Slave came later. And they are all the same thing. And that happened only when Master Joshua said, these are my conditions for you to be my submissive. So that's why I owe him my life.
Right. Wow. Oh, wow. My God. Oh no, it's one of those things where you like I listen to this and go, okay. Because in many respects, he got you to sort of sit down and like effectively say goodbye to your former self. Like some people would say, yeah. And send her on her merry way to this new I like to this new self. Like, i.e. Karma, sitting in front of me right now on this screen. Now, like getting you to accept that is most probably is a very sort of hard journey to get there eventually. Like,
Mhm.
can you tell me or explain how you managed to get your husband on board with this? Because like don't get me wrong, like look, when you walk down that aisle and marriage papers were signed, it was definitely going to be one way. You mentioned he didn't want to put you in a cage earlier, but how did he get there to like, yeah, I'm cool with this? Because it seems like we missed a significant chunk, you know?
Um, yeah. How did he get from that to I'm cool with it? He does his there I would say that I would define our relationship, my husband and I right now, as a completely mainstream marriage. Like like I don't like the word normal because it doesn't mean anything, but I would say common.
Traditional values.
Yeah, not exactly. Um, I would say as a commonplace marriage, right? In one aspect, it's a not don't ask, don't tell.
Okay.
Then this aspect, he was like, have your thing. I can't and don't want to know too much about it, but have your thing. As long as you're a good wife and a good mother, and you're doing your best to be both, um, I think what he did in his mind was sort of like what happened in his mind was sort of like an equation, right? Like, we talked through it. We talked through, is being kinky is inherent to who I am, right? And let's say, let's break down kinky to the idea of submission and or sadomasochism, right? It starts with there.
Okay.
That is probably a inherent trait, probably. The proclivity to it must be an inherent trait, or could be accepted as such. When I told him it's just like, I said maybe it's just like something like being gay or being trans, right? If I told you I'm gay, you would understand it's not something I can. He accepted that because it really did express itself that way. And it really is sort of like, I want to be touched in a certain way, and I can't help it that this is how it speaks to me. He accepted it as such. And then he was like, okay, you know what? Some people will go to, I don't know, dance class. Some people will have a hobby they devote X time to, right? And I would not stand out against a hobby, right? So if it's the time that the person invests away from the family and something he doesn't agree to, he was like, okay, let's say it's a hobby she has and I don't like it. It's a hobby she has and I don't like it. And in principle, I don't think monogamy is the end all. I don't think monogamy is sacred as part of a marriage. I think it's an agreement that could be renegotiated if needed. Understand that the freedom is given both ways. There might be a time where he might want it, and it's given in that case. So I think he's a very smart and logical person who did a calculation and came out with a result that says, like, this is what she wants, this is what she needs, this is her character and her possibly her sexual identity. If yes or no, he can't judge. He understands that. And this is what she's doing. And I don't want a divorce. So I put it under the place of she's going somewhere every weekend, and that's about it. Right? Do you see it? Or did I explain it clearly enough?
It, it's one of those things where I think if I maybe it wasn't a fair question to ask, because like this is the thing, like how you're interpreting it and how he might interpret it
Yeah,
might
yeah.
be incredibly different to how you're like, yeah, saying
Yeah,
it right.
you're a smart guy. You put that's exactly the point. Yes. I completely agree with you. That's my take on it, but it's probably not his.
Yeah.
He probably has a different thing he would say.
Mm.
I think he's taking the fifth on that. Taking the fifth means choosing silence.
Yeah, yeah, and woo, yes, I declare the fifth. But yeah, so it must be, it's just for, I would say, for many guy, like it's a sort of very, how can I put it? It's a hard position, I think, for not just guys, but anyone who like goes, I've signed up for this, and it turned out to be like something different, if you get what I mean. So it's
It's
just
from the people who
tricky.
read the book, from the people who read the book,
Hmm.
one of the most common responses I get is that we have compassion to you and to Master Joshua, but the real star of your story, the real saint of your story is your husband, because he played the long game, right? He saw what was happening and what he wanted and what he didn't want, and he put his feelings aside, and he put his anger aside, and he put his completely justifiable rage and bitterness aside, and said, I want the mother of my kids to be my wife.
Hmm.
And I think that's people who read the book say that's what comes out of it. And I think that is the bottom line of his side, that he just preferred the situation of the mother of his kids to be his wife and to live with them and to raise them and to be his partner too. He just is willing to let me have a different branched off life on the side. He doesn't want to be a part of it. Maybe with time he won't object to it, because over time they blend. I mean, my friends from that world are my friends from this world, and they are in coming to birthdays and stuff in my house. It's not like a separation. But I think that might be the best way to look at it.
No, because no, I hear you. I hear you. But like now, with regards to where you want to take your future,
Yeah.
what can you tell or explain what you would like that to be?
Wow, that's such a good question. Thank you for it. Let's see. In regards to where I would like to take my future, I would like to be able to do this without a mask on. I would like for my relationship with my husband to not be a don't ask, don't tell, but a enthusiastic consent. As in, I would like it to be that he sees and knows the benefits of this so well, and he receives the benefits of it so well that it's not something he manages, but rather something he embraces. And I would like, I would like my two parallel lives to really be they've been merging for a long time now. They're moving towards each other. But I would love it if just everybody was okay. I think that's the bottom line. Everybody was fully okay with everything that's happening. If I could talk about my book without my mask on, if I could publish, if I could promote my book without being cast out because of the words BDSM. If I could bring my former master home to celebrate my kid's birthday, I would love that. I don't even know how to get there, honest to God. Honestly, I'm not there. I don't know how to get there, but I would love for that to happen. For everybody to be okay with each other. That's what I want.
So, what do you think it will take for you to be able to have that day where we can have this conversation without you having the mask on, and I would be able to refer to you rather than your pen name, Karma, to like be able to like go, yes, your name is XY, and like, yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. Like, what do you think it will take to get you there?
These are really good questions. Thank you again. What do I think would take to get me there? All I can say is just, I don't know, I can't see that road. I don't know what would take to get me there, except one footstep over the other. Just keep on telling the truth. As in, unabashed, the only way to get there would be to say, I am going to this convention to promote my book. My book is my book called Surviving Master Joshua, the BDSM Memoir of an Unfaithful Wife. I'm going to a book fair to promote it. Help me out with carrying the boxes, or to my husband, or I would like to invite you to the. Basically, it is what I'm doing right now. There's also the matter of respect to him, because when he says, I don't want to know about it, I have to respect that. I can't be like, I need you to know about it because I want everybody to be okay. If he's not okay with certain things, he gives me my freedom. He might not be okay with certain things. He doesn't want to know about them. I have to respect that. because he has rights too. If he says the only way I can do this right now is by not looking at it and saying this is not my business, you know what? I don't want to know about this stuff, then that is where we're at. However, yeah, I don't know, step by step, just taking every opportunity to show everybody the truth as much as I can and making it people more and more okay with it. Hey, I gotta go.
Oh, no worries. No worries. But
I gotta pick up.
yeah, no. As I'm wrapping this up, because like I'll wrap this up quite quickly. Because like the vibe I get from you while we're having this conversation, yes, you are like, yes, you're trying to be like very respectful to all parties involved. But like the thing which like we haven't kind of spoken on, like you are being like, I get this vibe that you're being very, very protective of two individuals. So like your life doesn't affect their lives in a negative or like, yeah,
You're
detrimental
talking about
fashion.
my kids, the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, the whole thing is as much as like, yeah, if circumstances were different and it was just you, your husband, and your master, like Joshua, you like, yes, I think you might be stepping out into the light. But like, yes, I think as time goes by and they get older and much more aware of what the world is, I think, yeah, that day will come to fruition. It just comes down to when you believe they're mature enough and strong enough to be able to face all aspects of your life.
It's, um, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that's kind of what it boils down to. But how do I get from where I am right now to where I want to be? I mean, what happened right now, right? Right? That was my husband walking in saying, seeing me in my mask and hood and saying like, "Hey, time to pick up the kids."
Mm,
So
yeah.
it happens. You don't even know how it happens, but it happens. It just all I can do is like I'm gonna live my life and life is gonna make way for me because I am not moving from my own path anymore.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
all I can say. And I really gotta go pick up the kid.
no worries. Karma, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today. And yes, I wish I had a little bit more time to talk
How
with you.
about we do this again?
No,
Do you
no
edit
doubt.
your episodes or do they go live?
Happen.
Do you edit your episodes or do they like go
I
live?
do very minimal edits on my episodes. Like I put them out there. And yeah, I love to have you back and I love to talk to you a little bit more. And yeah,
Schedule a part two, and I should say this was such a helpful and kind conversation. Thank you for being so kind of like wise and saying like, what do you need to ask? Because these are really good questions.
oh, you're most kind, my lady, most kind. But yes, can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you out there on the interwebs?
It's the book is called Me, you can't find me, but Surviving Master Joshua. Well, no, let's see. There.
Yep, here you go.
Surviving Master Joshua, the BDSM memoir of an unfaithful wife. It
Hmm.
Karma said it is on everywhere. Google it. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, whatever you're comfortable with, it's on it. You got it in audiobook and you got it in digital and you got it in print. Just Google it, it'll come up.
Hmm.
And you can order the book.
No problem. Hey, thank you once again, Karma, for being with us.
Thanks, and I hope I'll see you again soon.
Indeed. And I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us to the end of the show. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be
Unlike your guest.
fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. See you later, guys. And yes, Karma, see you later.
See you
Bye
again.
bye. And away. Yes.